the live stream now. And now we're live on YouTube. So welcome YouTube.
Hello, YouTube.
As well. So coming back to this part, yes, so welcome. Thank you very much for being here today, and that you could make it, and that you, that we can show the first our work to you, and the first part of it. There will be actually more. If we go into the mural that you have seen, we are here first of all in the welcome section. So welcome to the Blue Ocean Sprinters. You can actually follow me if you like. Welcome to the Blue Ocean Sprinters, and that is the name that we have given ourselves. As said, we are transforming the Blue Ocean Sprint, a methodology that was, I think in the 2000s, was it created by René Bourgon and Chan Kim. I think I spelled the name wrongly. I'm sorry for that. They wrote 2 books on that, The Blue Ocean Strategy and The Blue Ocean Shift. And that is actually something that we took on, and we transformed it into, this into a sprint. I'm going to share my screen now. Don't look at all the weird stuff that is there. So here's our nice logo, and it's the 4 of us that did the Blue Ocean Sprint. I met all of them, or we met all together during GVDS, at one GVDS or the other, and find that we had in common, that we liked that topic and that we wanted to share that. Actually, yes, maybe Elisa, how was it working with the 4 Musketeers?
It was a very interesting experience. I think it's always nice when you mix minds and backgrounds, and it's exploring new fields has always been a passion of mine. So I'm very happy and proud of what we did until today, and I'm really hoping that this session will be interesting for you, and that you will provide, I'm sure you will provide useful feedback to us. So thank you for being here, also from me and my picture.
Pam, how was the experience so far for you?
Well, I can only echo what Elisa said. I mean, it's fun. I really enjoy that we are working across cultures and across genders and across languages and everything. We're very different people, which is quite cool because we all bring something different to the table, and that makes our collaboration all the more fun and fascinating.
Marcus.
Well, first of all, welcome everybody. And I can only second what has been said, especially if you keep in mind that we almost have never met in person. So it's all done virtually. The only person I've ever met really face-to-face for, I think, 1.5 hours was Alex in the famous city of Gütersloh, where we were not even allowed to eat a pizza in December inside. So no, jokes aside. The really fascinating part is really seeing what is really possible collaborating virtually, and how powerful these tools are nowadays, that even such a difficult, complex topic where there are also challenges coming up, what can really be solved virtually. That's totally fascinating.
Absolutely, absolutely. So maybe some introduction to what is the Blue Ocean Shift, or the Blue Ocean methodology. Well, the idea is that you are create new markets by not destroying your old market, which means it is a non-disruptive method of creating new markets. There's a lot of examples, and we will go into that in a sec when we show you our exercises. It is exercises from the 2000s. They focused quite much on market view, not the view that we have at the end of the 2020s, the hyper focus on the customer, but they had more like a market view. It has as well to do with that this is on a higher strategic level than just prototyping a product, you have to say. So I think that is important things you have to mind. You want to move from a red ocean where you have a lot of competitors and where you have to compete on price and other things, and go to a blue ocean where you are the first mover actually. So that is the main thing. I said already by whom it is done. What do we as the creators expect from today's session? So we would like to have your feedback on various on any kind of topics in regards to how this is graphically solved. What do you think about the exercises? Does this flow make sense? Does the exercise make sense? Have you seen something similar in other environments and can contribute? So that would help us tremendously to bring that forward. This is, as said, still work in progress. And I just would like to walk you quickly through all the different exercises just by naming them and how a blue ocean sprint by the book looks like. We very much adapted the book and did not integrate other thoughts and ideas. That was as well on the table, but we really stuck to the book. So the first thing is this as is strategy canvas. We come to that in a second, where you actually draw your market. Then we come to the buy utility map, a very crucial exercise, which is the next one, combined with the 3 tiers of non-customers. So you don't think so much only of your customers, but of your non-customers. Very interesting thing. 6 path framework, we would call that inspiration and learning zone in our design thinking heads. And there is the ER secret, eliminate, reduce, raise, create. Actually very creative, even if it does not look like or sounds like a creative methodology. And then at the end, there's the strategy canvas, which actually outlines the new market. You should have an idea about your product, but it is actually about outlining your market. And if you have that, then normally you would go on with the methodologies we normally use. Like you say, let's go for an assumption mapping. We have now focused on one market or one future blue ocean. Let's do an assumption mapping on what do we assume and where do the critical points lie. And from there on, we prototype with design sprints and try to get more data if this is really a thing. So that would be my introduction. Elisa, what have I missed? I think there's a little bit more about the how to use the canvas, right?
Yeah, we prepared a part for you. You know how it works. We want you to leave your trace. So if after this meeting you would like to leave your LinkedIn page, your name, it would be very nice also to take track of that. And we also will we will structure the session. We will show you the first 2 exercises, and we will talk a little bit about the exercise, their purpose, and how a participant will go through them. And while we talk, you have the chance in the bottom of the page to leave your comments, questions, whatever comes to your mind. We really want you to participate into this presentation and to provide your feedback. And then after each exercise, we will have the chance to comment together and to listen to you and what you have to say and to ask. I think this is the core of our experience today, and what we want to achieve is grasp what people who have not worked for the last 4 months on this think about it, and what would you add to it. Hi Sandy, I see you in the chat. I will send the link immediately.
Thank you very much. We do have a section over here at the very bottom, at the left bottom. be our guests, where you can put in your LinkedIn profile and other things, but we mostly know each other, and it's not so much about networking as well. As well, again, for those who just recently joined, I see Sandy Lamb. Say hi to Sandy. Hi, Sandy. If you like to be part of the panelists, I see as well Maria, who has joined, and Mani. Hello. If you like to be panelists, just raise your hand and I will bring you over. And in today's session, we are going to talk about the first two exercises. That is the as-is strategy canvas and the bio-utility map. So then, if I have not forgotten anything, Elisa, then we're going to start with the strategy as-is canvas, right?
Sure.
Okay, and I bring over, just before doing that, Sandy to the panel. Hi, Sandy. It's good to have you joining. So the point here is the strategy as is canvas, and what the aim of this goal is, at least for me, and is that we want to get an overview of the market where we are in. And maybe you, if you would like, you can follow me, or I'm going to ask you to follow me, that you can actually see where I'm at. So it is we want to get an overview of the market where we are in and where we are in this market, to have a starting point. Where is our, let's draw the red ocean. And the way we have actually made and designed thinking exercise out of that, which like always was the challenge to say, hey, there's something in the book and they do it like that. So how do we make a collaborative design thinking exercise out of that? Then we started with, okay, the exercise, first of all, on ideating who are your competitors. That is like, so you have a group, that is what we could say. We have a diverse group of a company there, and like people from marketing, from sales, but from production and so on. And the first question we are asking them, who are your competitors? And we had in our sessions, when we did like asking ourselves, does this work? An example of being an Italian restaurant owner, and being an Italian restaurant. Hello?
No, you can go on. I think it was background noise.
Okay. So it was like, who are your competitors? And if you're an Italian restaurant owner, you could say, okay, it's the other local Italian restaurant. It's that chain over there. There's actually two. And it's this pizza delivery service. They are killing me, for example. So if you would have these kind of narrow view, as we would see it, of your market, that is totally fine. But then we would have, and that is the person standing for with the head and the wheel in it, would do some kind of reflection and say, okay, are there more competitors of yours? Maybe a delivery service on other foods, like, I don't know, Taiwanese food, Chinese food, Bavarian food, I don't know, fast food restaurants and so on. So we would try to widen actually the view on that. If on the other side, they would have a lot of ideas what their competitors could be, and there could be a lot, we would go into an affinity diagramming and would say, okay, let's affinity diagram those competitors. Normally, that is what the book says, is that we have direct competitors and indirect competitors, and that is classical theory. I have forgotten to put on the timer, and I will give myself 8 minutes so that I don't overtalk, or Elisa and myself 8 minutes. So if you have done who is your competitors, with that you go into the next exercise. What are the key competing factors in your industry? And you can say, of course, so in the Italian restaurant industry, it would be, of course, like the quality of food. It would be maybe as well the quality of service, maybe as well the authenticity of service, maybe as well the authenticity of the people that serve you, that they can speak Italian, for example. So there might be different factors, but it might be as well like how fast is the food delivered to your table? Is there a takeaway option and so on? So there might be very different competing factors in that area. We would definitely go into an affinity diagramming here, and we would build out of them categories. Those categories now we would drag into the strategy to be as is canvas as you see it here. So the first thing is always, and that is in the blue ocean, and it is as well in a lot of markets like that, that price is a very defining point. So price is always the first category. But like here you would see quality of food or quality of the dishes, quality of customer service, authenticity, what I have said, these factors you would see here that should be the categories of the affinity diagram that you drag in here. You would do a short round of reflection. Are that really all? Did we cover all? So that you really have everything there. Maybe it becomes obvious when you look at it to say, oh, there's something missing. Then you would go back to the other part where you say, who are our competitors? And you would say, okay, there's a high price player in the market, and there's a low price player in the market. And unfortunately, I don't have a good example for the Italian restaurant, but I have something for cars. Like in India, there's Tata Steel, but Tata has made as well a very small car for very, very cheap money. So very low price for everyone. So they would sit here with their car. And on the other end, we would have something, I don't know, like Maserati, like cars that are not coming out of a factory actually, but that you actually can say, oh, I want to have my name on it and so on. And then you have those different competing factors. You have the high price player and the low price player. And then you have on the left here different points where you say, hey, this is, for example, this competitor, you say is the high price competitor. So you take in here your name and say that mine would be Alex. And I would copy that now. And I would say, okay, this price here is high, but how do the others look like? And then I would like draw my curve of them here and say, hey, and this plays not so much a role. You get the idea. And everyone would do the same. And so you would get a heat map or some heat there. And we would then discuss to draw for the high price player and for the low price player their market curve, their strategy as is canvas, so to say. And at the last point, that would be the last part of the exercise then, or at least the last active part is then you put in your company and say, okay, where did you sit as a company? Where is your price? Where are these other competing factors? Where do you sit there? To get, as said, an overview of the red ocean that you're into it. And if you have drawn those three curves, you would just discuss the results, wrap it up as thoughts. We think of having a parking lot for ideas and for questions and so on. And yes, would move on to the next exercise. So I've talked a lot. What I missed, Elisa?
No, I'm just thinking one thing is that we decided to give a voice to each team member, especially if they come from like a multidisciplinary background and they are representative of different parts of the company. It's very important to see if their picture of where the company is today and where the competitors are today are kind of aligned or they are not. So that's why everybody gets a vote, and then they will discuss if there are discrepancies among them so that they can build the actual, they might realize that they need more data, or they might realize that they have exactly the same view. And another point that it's important is that in the blue ocean strategy, what they say is that usually you have two in a market, you will have 2 strategic groups, and that's why you only build a couple of curves. You don't build the curves of all the competitors, but you just build the top down, the top one and the bottom one, because they usually have a similar flow. And it might be interesting to see if this specific company we're working with during Blue Ocean Sprint has a different curve, or as a competitor that has an unusual pattern. So these are all things that we will grasp from this graph.
And so Sandy has one question, like, so say 10 members and 5 competitors will end up with 50 flows on the chart. As said, it will be only 3, and we will condense those votes, obviously. So we will, in this discussion, say, okay, do we have, where is it? Where do we have where's the right point to sit that? And, you know, with those nice new functionality, you can actually draw a line like that, and we would obviously do that, and then we would have the curve.
Yeah, it's more of at the beginning, it's more of a heat map. We want to see if they are aligned as a team, if they think that it's actually like similar. We have another question from Laura, who is asking to explain the bottom part. So the as is canvas, right? Laura, do you want to come live and ask us the questions?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so this bottom part, I didn't really understand. So where you have the high player and then you have the low player. You know, from this part, I didn't really understand how we went to the left and then went back into here. So this part I didn't really. If you could explain it again, please.
Sure.
Okay.
Alex, do you want to go?
So, you know, so it's clear how we're coming to the categories, right?
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So
and
I mean, but this is looking at the competitors. So not my business, what my price or my competing factor is, but I'm looking at the 2 competitors or 3 competitors. Or am I competing myself with the other 2 competitors?
the last one,
The last one. So I mean, so it's my company, then I have competitor 1. Okay, so now I understand. Okay, so I have competitor, and then I would have competitor 2 then.
Yeah, Laura, if you take a look.
Okay, sorry.
On the left. If you take a look on the left,
yes,
here,
yeah.
The blue one will be your company. Maybe we can also differentiate it and bring it like somewhere else, that it's clear that you have the space for your company too. That's the last thing that you will do. You will start with your competitors and then you draw your line as a company.
But so wait a second. So now I have my company, but how do you put this now? So okay, so my lowest company is this this car company that is very low, and then I'm having one that is competitive very high. So where I'm positioning in the price range? Okay, I understand this. Then how do you go to these competing factors? Do you define those competing factors here?
No, they are defined upwards. If you follow me, then I show you.
Wait, I'll follow you.
That is the key industry,
competing factors in your industry. Okay.
Ideate before, and that you affinity diagram later, and that we have a reflection round on, and then we put them into, and we bring those categories then down here as the competing factors. They are the
okay factors. So those are the competing. Okay.
Exactly. Okay. So the group is actually doing what are their competitors.
Yeah.
And then, so, okay, they have an overview of what their competitors are, do a little bit of reflection on that. And then next, okay, what are we competing on? What are the competing factors that we're doing with them? They're ideating on that, getting orientation through doing some kind of categorization, and then bring them into the strategy as is.
Bottom part. Okay. Okay, super. Thank you so much. And then what happens then?
Well, then you have drawn, first of all, then you have a strategic overview of your market. And you say, okay, the high price player, the low price player, the high price competitor, the low price competitor, you can say as well. They have this curve on those key competing factors. And we have this. And that is just the strategy as is canvas. That is the starting point. This is where we start our blue ocean journey, that we know in which red ocean we are right now. It's just the how it is today.
Ah, okay.
And
So this
from
is,
where,
yeah.
and
So
to
where
make,
am I positioned in the red ocean between the
yes,
companies? Okay. Mhm.
because the first step to go into a blue ocean is to know where you are, and
Yeah.
then you can start your journey.
Mhm. Thank you.
Does that make
Mhm.
sense for you?
Yes, totally. I understand now. Thank you.
We had someone else raising the hands. We have more people, just like Laura, Americo, and there's someone else I cannot see at the moment raising their hand.
Florian.
Yeah, just come off mic and say.
Let's go with Americo first. And
Well,
then...
I can go first if you want.
Yeah.
On first, Sandy Lam asked the question if 10 people will take part of this exercise, there will be 5 competitors. There will be 50 flows on the chart of exercise 3.
No, it's only 3. It's only the high price player, the low price player, and yourself. So
All right, but let's say that I'm doing it with you. How do we agree in the average point?
So
That's the discussion. So basically, you will start with the first one. So you don't draw all the competitors in one time. So you start with the first one that you think it's the high price player, and you will have, so for each column, you will have 10, if the participants are 10 people, you will have 10 points, 10 dots. We would imagine that there is not so much difference between these dots, but if there is, you will have a discussion over it, and you will try to define it and to back up with what you know about your competitor. That's what is going to happen, and then you will make a decision and you will erase all the other dots. So there will be a final decision, and in the column, just one dot will be remaining. Is it clear now?
I have mixed feelings. Why? You had at the beginning, at the left side of the chart, there is high and low price. Just for you to know, I never had the opportunity to read Blue Ocean, so I'm totally blank on the methodology. So we have here high price and low price because it's why it's the way the methodology
because
guide
normally, so it's not about it's about the methodology, but it needs to be understandable, because the lowest price in the market and the highest price in the market define extremes. So market is about selling goods. Price obviously plays a key role in that, and so the lowest price and the highest price mark the extremes, and we want to have those extreme lanes and showing, so to say, where the extremes are.
I was all right. There are 2 strategies, like price and differentiation. Do we have a second chart for differentiation, or do you capture that understanding from reading information from somewhere else? Because it's just price. There are P&G that competes based on price, and there are other companies that compete based on differentiation. And if I limit my reasoning for price, that is just off of the equation.
So we have, like, the other competing factors can be very differentiating here. So that is the other factors, and you have to be aware that we are in a red ocean. If you would be already so in a red ocean is defined that you, I don't know, like at some point, like the TV market, it's either you deliver higher quality and you have to deliver it to a lower price. Those are like the 2 major points that you have there in a red ocean. You can deliver more, or you can actually lower the price for the same. That is like 2 key things in a red ocean market that are there. And
Yeah,
for the
okay.
other factors, you can actually put them in. If you say there's some kind of differentiation, they differentiate on whatever communication, they communicate differently, then you could actually put that in as a key competing factor and say they are high on communication.
Okay, so one last question is, you have the complete overview of the process. Do you have any kind of listing or systematization of pre-work that the team has to do before going with the team to ideate? Do you have something like that?
So there will be some kind of homeworks in some other areas of the, so there will be some kind of homework for the team to be done. That is when then there is the learning and inspiration part. And of course, they should be knowledgeable about their company and the market they are working in. And the team should be diverse. But there's not so much prerequisite of so much things that they have to do before. So I imagine that someone is working in a company, in a market, actually knows these kind of questions,
All right.
or
Okay,
at
thank
least
you.
has access to that. There might be some homework involved. I have one other question from Sandy Land that I want to quickly answer. For what are the two other lanes? And I guess, yes, they could be in a way confusing. If you take the car example, you might as well say, oh, let's map out Tesla. They are not the high price player, they are not the low price player, but there's something coming in there, let's do that. Or there might be another player like, I don't know, Ferrari or Porsche. They have as well a high price, but their curve is different from that. And for that, we would have them in there. But maybe it's better to hide them.
Yeah, differentiate graphically. I'm taking notes in the bottom part of the where the comments can be written. Also remember that you can leave comments here in the bottom part. Can you show it? Okay. Yeah.
Yes, I show it.
I just took some notes while you were talking so that they remain with us, or thoughts that I had.
And Florian, you wanted to say something as well.
Yes, about the competitors. The question is there how you make sure that you go maybe not too focused, but also not too wide. You know what I'm saying? The idea,
Yes.
like when you say we're talking about, what I'm thinking always is, what is the job that I'm, how you say that? That my customers do. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
Okay.
I get that. So that's we talked a lot about that too. The point here is that when they have a clear view of their market and their competitors, then obviously that is fine for us, and then we can move on with that. If they have already a widespread view of that, and there's a lot, we do have those, we do an affinity diagramming of the competitors, and to get like categories like direct competitors, indirect competitors, but maybe as well other categories to get an orientation, but as well then to say, okay, there could be, or there is the idea that we then here in the high price and low price player, we don't choose one company, but actually we choose a whole category of competitors, because that is so important, and their market is then, that's of course a bigger definition of the market. Does that cover your answer, your question?
Yeah, that is totally fine. Point of thing here is, as you said, it's really relevant at the beginning to frame it right? So that people look also broad enough. Is that correct?
Yes.
And I would just add one thing, and maybe we can switch also to the next exercise if we don't have other questions. But I saw a question from from Sandy. Sorry, I mixed name and surname together. Very sorry. From Sandy, I saw a question about the fact that they will have different paths. This is true, but you have to think about the strategy as this canvas as a graph representing not just one competitor, but like thousands of them. Strategic groups, in statistically, they will just draw one curve. I mean, those curves usually are so similar that they will identify in one. So it was difficult to transform that concept that comes from theory and not just theory, but like applied strategy on a very large sample of companies into a work that you do on Mural. But it's an interesting point. We will reflect on that because that's backed up by theory. So usually the companies will build like one curve that represents them all in the end. But maybe when you're working with just one competitor, it's not clear to explain. So we'll work on that. Thank you for your questions.
Okay, last thing, I saw Laura raising again her hand. That is already covered, or is
That's
that
already covered. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
Thank you.
So then I would like, I hope so that is it's a very interesting exercise because it is, I think, one of the most known exercises of the Blue Ocean and used as well in other areas. I would now hand over to Pamela and Marcus, who will present the buyer utility map, the first and the core step of creating your Blue Ocean. So from defining where you are and where your standpoint is, now going into the journey to create the Blue Ocean. Pam, Marcus, please take over.
Yay, thank you, Alex. Yeah, really interesting already hearing all the comments and questions coming up. Thank you guys for that. What I immediately have to think of is something that we are, well, what we're going to talk about in the buyer utility map as well, because this name is already seems quite outdated. And I mean, Florian's question is quite legit. We talked about jobs to be done and how does that reflect within Blue Ocean. And you have to remember that this book was actually written in 2005 and terms like customer centricity and value, and they weren't really broadly used yet. That's something of the 2020s or, well, a couple of years ago. And so instead, it's a different way of approaching that. So it's assuming that a company has no idea about jobs to be done. They're not customer centric yet. And this is a way to help them get there. But it's it's just maybe a slower process, or there's other ways of doing it. So this is just one methodology. So yeah, buyer utility map. This is the first step where you're going to actually take the team to switch from their industry and company perspective to the user customer. And the way that they do that is by identifying pain points within your industry. So aspects of the product in the industry that either limit or reduce the value or are uncomfortable for your customer. So you're going to find the pain points and the barriers. So as an industry, if usually what you see inside the industry is that we become blind to what we're doing and we don't necessarily see the pain points, especially when you're not customer centric yet and you're not used to that way of thinking. These are just the rules. This is the way we've always done it. We all know probably what our clients sometimes tell us. But you're ignoring your customer and they might become indifferent in the end and turn somewhere else or find another way to solve to get their jobs done. So an interesting example, I know that Marcus really wants me to mention this example.
Yes, you must.
I must mention this one.
Yeah.
So an interesting one, for instance, that an example that they use in the book is that how do you open a bottle of wine? So a bottle of wine was I'm gonna look later at Florian's question. So wine drinkers, it used to be European, but Americans also drink a lot of alcohol, but not necessarily wine. So wine is about a 15% market share. And when they started looking into the pain points, it turned out that there were two main insights. So one, there was too much choice and it was complicated to make a choice. I think maybe wine drinkers, we all have that issue when you look at the labels and read it and how do I pair this and how is this going to work? But the second one was also very interesting. It turned out that 85% of Americans didn't have a corkscrew at home. And that feeds into that idea that wine must have a cork, and that's the way we've always done it. So this insight, long story short, going through innovation process and ideating and everything led to the introduction of the twisting cap. And that's how we now have wine bottles with twisting caps. So that's quite an interesting one. Yeah, what else? Marcus, what am I missing so far?
No, the example was perfect.
All right. I can check. Oh, Marcus, you're answering Florian's question?
Yes, I just did.
Okay. All right. Then I can go on, I guess.
Yes.
So yeah, so they're basically most companies are very stuck within their own industry and their ways of doing things, and this will also help open up the conversation about that. So if you do have an opportunity to do something different, then why does everybody in the industry keeps doing the same thing, right? It's always an interesting question and argument and conversation to have. So with this one, what is the desired outcome of this exercise? So we're going to create a map here, and it's going to help you to clearly identify areas. One, what your industry currently focuses on, and that might be either irrelevant for your customers or where the pain points are. So the areas where customers are blocked from receiving value of your products. And those are the areas that have potential for creating blue oceans, because if you manage to lift the pain points, as we know, then you might have uncovered something that could deliver more value. So what do? Let's go do the walkthrough. How do we bring some variety in this? Maybe some of you are familiar. I know Americo just said he didn't read the book, but maybe some people did or are slightly familiar with some other tools that are out there already. The original buyer utility map is a really big 6x6 matrix. So it contains 36 fields, and we decided to break it up into two parts. The first one is in the middle, the customer journey, and describing that. And then the second part is looking at those utility levers and barriers. And the utility levers is also a bit of an outdated term potentially, but it's the criteria or the knobs that we can turn on and play with to deliver that value. And they mentioned 6, and we had a lot of interesting conversations about if those are still valid or not, or if we need to expand on those. So yeah, if you have any ideas on that, feel free to drop it in the bottom. So let me take you through the customer journey. Alex is zooming in and zooming out. So I think most of us are familiar with customer journeys, not entirely sure, but I'm assuming. We have the 6 phases of the customer journey. So attention, purchase and delivery, use, supplements, so any additions that customers can get to increase the value for your product, the maintenance of the product, and then finally the disposal. And you do it together alone exercise. So you're going to map out how do customers find you. You're going to answer all those questions on the cards. How do customers find out about you? Is it online? Is it in store? Is it on Google? All these kind of things. Then the second part, purchase and delivery. Where and how do they buy your product? Again, can be online, can be via Amazon. It can be, if it's a restaurant, it can be something totally different. So it depends really on the industry and the type of company that we're working with. What else am I missing? A long explanation. Sorry, guys. Yeah, the use phase, of course. What do they have to do to start using it? Basically, very simple. And then the supplements I already briefly mentioned. Are there any other things that they might need? So think about, I don't know, a kitchen machine where you can buy additional utensils for to increase the value, and then where do they buy those? The maintenance, is it complicated to maintain? Think of a car again, you have to take it to the car shop, whereas something that you lease might be a different construction for that. And then ultimately disposal. And disposal, well, from my sustainability background and insights, is always an interesting one. But yeah, I think of how easy is it to dispose of a product, how much plastic is involved, but also how difficult is it? If you buy a refrigerator, it's always quite the hassle if you buy a new refrigerator to get the old one disposed of. And in some countries, you have to do it yourself. And in other countries, they do a pickup and you can play around with that. Yeah, so at the end of the exercise, we would identify the most important steps that the customers would have to take. You build your journey, and you can do that. We put some red waves in the bottom, and we create basically the customer journey there with the whole team. You can do dot voting, we can do waves. And in the next exercise, we would be looking at those utility levers you see in the exercise all around. And I'm going to hand over to Marcus, because I've been talking for a really long time, to explain those.
Great. Thank you, Pam.
You're welcome.
Well, in the book, they identified 6 utility levers, and to have also a little bit of variety in this exercise, we decided now to do this exercise in smaller groups. So while Pamela had said for the customer journey, it was on the together alone level. Here we would break people into smaller groups of usually 2 people. And each group would then, of course, depending on the size of the group, each group would look at 1 or 2 of these utility levers, which we have positioned here around the customer journey. And they would have to analyze where are the biggest blockers for customer in each phase of the customer journey that prevents customers really from realizing the value or the utility. And like I said, they have 6 different utility levers. We start with customer productivity, which is more kind of a, I would call it a meter lever, because it is anything related with efficiency in fulfilling the customer's needs. So can be about less time, less effort, less money, all of this. And the participants now have to see, okay, what is really blocking the customer in achieving this productivity, and going really from phase to phase. So in the attention phase, in the purchase phase, etc. One example, for example, is if you're a restaurant and you are nowhere on the web. So it would be already difficult for your potential customers to find you. Or if you think about to-go food, if they really put it into a packaging that is not able to keep the food warm, so the use might be reduced because you get cold food. That is all that you have to think about here in this phase. And then you have the next group looking at the simplicity. So simplicity is everything that eliminates or minimizes complexity or hassle. So you start also thinking about, okay, what is blocking us from simplicity in the attention phase, in the purchase and delivery phase, in the usage phase, etc., until the disposal. The next utility lever, another group is working on, is the convenience. So how easy is it to get and use the product when and where you want? So thinking about a restaurant, the question could be about your opening times. Are you open 24/7, or are you closed on weekends when most people want to go out and eat? So these are points that people could come up with in the convenience phase. Then we would move down to the bottom. So we arranged it really all around the customer journey. The next would be risk reduction. So anything reducing the real or perceived risk. That could, for example, be that when you want to open a hotel and you have to buy, well, you have 200 rooms, etc., then you have to make big investments in buying a bed, for example, for each room. So that could stop a hotel owner or block him from buying a bed, because that's a huge investment for him that only pays off over time. Another utility lever is fun and image. So anything tangible, intangible about the aesthetic look, the feel, the attitude, and the style. And here thinking again, what can stop the customer from achieving this fun and image? And finally, and I think here you also see that the concept is from 2005. They talk still about eco-friendliness. Well, this is all about sustainability, looking really at the full product life cycle, and thinking here again, okay, is there anything stopping us from disposing the product, or when we want to maintain it, is there the risk of some harmful liquid getting out of the product, whatever. So here, the smaller groups do a lot of brainstorming about what is blocking customers really from achieving their value. So as we have been doing this exercise in smaller groups, we still want to get the perspective from the total group. So we would add, when each group has finished working on one or perhaps two utility levels, we would do something like a round robin. So after completing the utility levels, the groups would go around, moving from one utility level to the other, and then adding what they feel are missing here. And by this, on the one hand, have a little variety in the process, but still capturing the thoughts from the complete group. Now, of course, this was so far a lot about ideation, get a lot of ideas about the blockers, etc. And now we would have to converge again. When we have finished the round robin, it's time to converge. And so we would ask the participants to identify the biggest utility blockers for customers in this market. And they would do it by adding again heat waves for each utility level separately. By this, you will really, what Pam said in the beginning, this is then where you see the patterns in the map. And that is then also the final step. While we had been working a lot in silence so far, now it's really time to discuss, to talk in the group. Okay, what is sticking out for you? What did you learn? Are there any main areas where customers experience blockers? Because here then is really the potential for creating the blue oceans. And these blockers and these learnings would be captured and then taken forward to a next phase.
Yay.
And if I look on the time, we made it in time.
We did. Well done.
Yeah. Virtual high five.
Yay. Well, then I'll raise my hand, but I'll lower it again. I think everybody fell asleep now, or I'm not sure if I'm getting it. Okay.
Okay, who is still up?
I am.
Okay.
Yay. Okay. So yeah, interesting. So I see this. It seems to be a lot of questions. How long is the session? This is a very good question. This is something that we have been talking about for quite a while, and apparently Marcus discovered that there is in some books, or I don't know, remember where it was. So they said it might take only half an hour. I'm like, no way. So we're still structuring the overall timeline of the workshop, but we have discussed that this might even be a full half day. It could be. But this is the reason why we are so excited to be doing in June, hopefully a full walkthrough with an actual case study, also to discover how long this is actually going to take when we ask a team to do this.
Yeah.
So the honest answer is we don't know yet, but we think it's going to take 2 to 4 hours. Is that correct, team members, teammates?
Yes. Well, if I start with this example of the 30 minutes, I mean, we're talking about in total, and now looking at the book, we're talking about 36 fields that need to be filled, and doing that in half an hour, you will definitely not be able to go into the details, because that would mean you are below a minute per field. And this is actually one of the core exercises, because it's really is the beginning into the blue ocean. And the time you put in here is pretty valuable, because you start stepping in the shoes of the customer. And so I think 3 to 4 hours would be what you need to put in here. And we tried to give some variety with a round robin, with working alone and then in smaller groups, etc. That it is also a bit, entertaining, and some variation when doing really this big exercise.
So Marcus, for this exercise, are you planning to include any customer inputs, or this is just ideation of the people who works in the company?
It's a good question. Definitely that could be part of homework they could be doing. They or us, but it could be part of participants' homework for sure. But I also believe that there is a lot of knowledge already in the market, and when you get them and nudge them into this direction, there will already be a lot of valuable insights coming from it without necessarily going on the street. Of course, going out, talking with customers is always the preferred option, but also here we need to look at as this might work out time-wise.
So I'm a company. I see your proposition. I see this kind of service. Why should I hire you to do it? If you are just to organize my ideas, is that the point? Just to facilitate the organization of my ideas, or do you bring something new to the table, or something fresh to the table?
There will be later coming also something fresh, but clearly here we are not acting as consultants.
Okay.
But this is facilitation. But later there, especially when it comes to the creativity part, there will be new ways of looking at this.
Yeah, this is like making a map. It's like setting the scene and try to see where they are at. Of course, all this exercise can be, there can be some informations that you can gather before, they can all be deepened. But yes, as Marcus was saying, we thought about it as a workshop of facilitation, not mailing as a consulting business.
All right, okay.
As well as like one thought is, for example, to have a diverse team of the company in there. So I have consulted a lot of companies that never looked at the customer service as a source of looking at their customers, for example. So that would be, of course, something that we would say that like, hey, can we have someone from customer service? Can you look into some data there? Companies normally see that as an issue to solve. Customers are calling, but actually it's a very good source for ideas and what are blockers. And this is some parts of what we would bring to the table here, beside facilitation and organizing it.
All right.
Are there other questions? See, Debbie was wondering about, yes, the length of the exercise. Do we have any raised hands? Somebody that wants to contribute as saying something?
I think Gigi said that she read the book and she feels like 2 to 3 hours seems about right for that exercise. So that resonates somehow with you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's already not the first time that I've read the book. I read that one. I read also Notion Shift. And I myself had already think, okay, how can we mix it into some exercises, like together with the other frameworks? And yeah, I definitely think that 3 to 4 hours could be enough, with a few breaks to let people breathe.
Yes.
But no, because at the end of the day, these are really pressing questions, right? So they're really very focused. They're very pressing in key questions. So we really want to have them fully focused. No email, no discussions, no nothing, really engaging. So yeah, I would think 3 to 4 hours maximum with little breaks in between. I think it could definitely work. I mean, like you guys were saying, half a day, like 4 hours is a morning. So
yes,
it completely resonates. Absolutely.
Okay,
But-
thank you very much, because that's valuable feedback, because timing is something we discussed, obviously.
This will be sold as strategy or as a strategy service, or as like a product thing. This will be, sorry for the interruption. This will be sold as strategy or something like a product workshop, something like that.
So I can start answering it, but anyone else can as well bring in. I would see it so like the blue ocean is first of all on a strategic level. So normally, like strategy department would make, or they do blue oceans. That is a tool that they use normally. It takes them a lot of time, but it is a very valuable tool to show new markets and new ways or new revenue streams to open up. So that would be like that we are talking to the strategy departments. But as said, the outcome should be that there are like some defined blue oceans, possible blue oceans, and there could not be only one blue ocean that comes out, but it could be more blue oceans coming out. And from there on, we would go into more concrete work. So the outcome of this is having 3 to 4 chosen ideas of blue oceans, and then it would go into the work of more more of like how can we prove that this blue ocean is really a thing. And with the blue ocean, you should already have an idea about the product, and then you would go into things like prototyping and product related work.
Okay, just my perspective is a bit like this. It's not expected to solve or to design solutions for very important issues for companies in the time frame of 2 or 3 hours, because that requires some discussion, and it gives maybe the wrong message to the other person. Taking care of very important issues for my company in 2 or 3 hours seems a bit, makes me feel a bit silly, because I'm someone who works in the business all days, all the 24/7, and you even recognize that I don't need any kind of new inputs from the market because my people know it all. Maybe it's a small period of attention for a strategic issue.
So we're
That
talking
is just
about
my perception.
This exercise takes 2 to 4 hours. The exercise before takes 1 to 2 hours, and there's other exercises. So we perceive this as something to be a sprint from 1 to 2 weeks in total with all the things. And at this end, not at the end of the bioutility, at this end, you do have those blue oceans.
All right. Okay.
So not 2 to 4 hours would not be enough. I agree on that. I think Laura is raising her hand, and I want her to come off mic.
Thank you. I really like the idea. I get excited when I see structure and just going one after another. I think I really like it. I could totally see this working, and I'm eager to try it myself. And it reminded me of similar workshop that I had, and the system, this approach, the flow that we had, and we call it speed dating. So more or less, the speed dating is where you have one one area of focus where you kind of put your ideas for a set amount of time, we'll say 5 minutes, and then you move to the next area. So I could totally imagine, for example, if we go to the section number 3 where it says customer productivity. So for example, if there would be one person saying, okay, now I have 5 minutes for myself, I go into this area, customer productivity, I know what it means, my attention, my purchase, I have this area for me, for myself, and I just pour all my information on those sticky notes in those subcategories, 5 minutes are over, then I move to the next section, okay? And I'm in this simplicity, number 4, only here for myself, But that means a person who was behind me could come to the section 3, which be the customer productivity, and then he sees my sticky notes and can add on top of it. So I could totally see this as actually having one person from one area, but then after set amount of time, you move to the different section, but on the sticky notes that the person have left before. It's like you build on other ideas that are already there, you know. And of course, if you see someone that is repeating the same, you won't add it again. But I think this speed dating system could actually work in here, and maybe we could move the whole exercise a bit faster. So this is an idea that I had, and I just wanted to share with you guys and girls.
Thank you, Laura. Thanks. I think that is a different name for a round robin, because that is what a round robin is. So you chase each other around the board, basically.
Okay.
So it's the same methodology as a round robin. So it's just a different name. And the only difference is that we. Never mind, it's okay. I like speed dating, actually. Maybe we want to call it speed dating.
Because you see, I didn't know what it meant. Yeah, because you said the name, but I didn't know what it meant. So okay, okay.
No
but
worries.
this is exactly so. This is the chase of the robin. Is this what is the speed dating is? That you actually, because I understood that you have two people, and those two people work on one section, and then you change to the next area.
And then you move to the next area, but you still feed onto each other's post-its. So we decided to put in duos because it's quite a big exercise with all the levers and then the 6 phases of the journey. Yeah. So for now, we said maybe it's actually more effective and more efficient to do it in duos, because they can then brainstorm together already and have a little bit of discussion and argumentation why what should go where. But for speed, yes, you could do it individually as well. So we might take that on and discuss that again. Who knows? Thank you.
And I think as well as a homework, this as to give it to the client before the workshop, as to actually to generate some ideas, to generate some thoughts. I think it's a great as well. I could totally see it as a homework now before it actually kicks in.
That definitely, that definitely makes sense. I would also like, Mani posted here something a while ago. What would be the outcomes of the sprint? Well, let's quickly look or recap what we said. For this exercise, first of all, the outcome would be really areas where customers are blocked from receiving the value. And of course, if we really take this forward over the next steps, there will be other exercises adding different perspectives and opening new perspectives, so that in the end, the target, and that's why this exercise that Elisa and Alex said with the as-is canvas, we will in the end build on that and modify it to show a new curve, how a strategy could look like in the market. So the final result or the final outcome would be a couple of to-be canvas that would then have to be validated.
I hope that makes sense for Mani.
Did that help, Mani? Or
I think that Mani left. I think that he had to go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyhow, if anybody was interested in the answer, I hope it was clear.
Let's wrap it up, I would say. These are the first 2 exercises, and we leave you with a cliffhanger. We will do a session in at the end of May, in the last week of May. We will notify everyone who wants to be notified. I'm moving to the end, and I'm asking you to follow me again. So not to be rude, ask to be followed. So this is, we are going to do the first full and open blue ocean sprint that starts June 7th, where we will then have all the exercises. If you want to be part of it, just double click and write your name on it. Then we will actually inform you, obviously. If you already have a potential client, I know that is, but hey, we're here. If you have already a potential client in mind, or if you want to use this 1 or 2 exercises during GVDS, reach out to us. Obviously, we would like to overlook how you use it and how it works out. If you want to do that, if you have already a problem in mind or a client in mind that could be worked on June 7th, we are more than happy to do that. So then reach out. And we would have the question, of course, to say thank you very much for your time. Thank you for your input, for your critical questions, and for your comments. We learned a lot. And maybe you have some more input, and you can give us some feedback here in those sections. You maybe know what I liked, what I learned, what I wish for. Yes. And I think that
Yay.
would it
Thank
be
you, everyone.
Alex, I see one hand raised. It's from Laura. I don't know if it's from before or if it's
Sorry, yes. I tend to raise my hands and then forget it. Sorry, my apologies.
problem.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to say thank you so much. Okay, I'm raising my hand. Thank you. It was very insightful. I really enjoyed it. It looked really great. And I'm totally on this cliff hanging now and waiting for the next part to appear. So yes, really thank you for all of you. It was really great fun. And great work, no? Because I think it's hard to convert the theory into something practical.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
really well done.
It's difficult to go inside the mind of people who work in management and try to transform this in something more visual. And it was, but it's a nice challenge. I think it's absolutely worth the effort that we put in it and that we are gonna put in the next weeks.
Yep, I agree. Look forward to it.
Yes.
Yay.
absolutely.
And hopefully
All right.
next time we will see each other in the face.
Yes, if I put the right
We
thing.
better put some makeup on now.
Yes.
Will do. All right. Thank
and
you.
Yes, if you see some like resources or something that comes to your mind later on, and you can just write to us. We will appreciate any kind of suggestion or.
Yep. I was going to say the same thing, Elisa. Brilliant. Yay.
So goodbye and thank you very much.
Thank you. All the best.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Have a nice evening or day.